Hey guys, welcome to Girls Frontline 2. Now that we have confirmed that Springfield is arriving, let us discuss the Hydro team on the level of global and how we're going to be building a team and how the team is going to be performing. So, with Springfield nearing her arrival to Global, let's take a look at the whole picture for a mono hydro team. Specifically for the core of this team, because right now we do have Tololo Springfield coming in, Sabrina, and Zhao Wei. Next, most likely, is going to be Nikita arriving in Global. I'm not saying next after Springfield, but next in the line of hydro characters. Probably gonna be, coming in before Florence, so she's actually here as well. So take a look at the whole mechanic of the Hydro team and understand what their kit is all about. So we'll start off with your main, kind of your main damage dealer for the moment, which is Tololo. So Tololo, this is the character. This is what Tololo gives as a support or as a skill. So Tololo doesn't do much in terms of giving buffs and to other allies, but she gives a lot of things to herself. Okay, so let's start off with Tololo because most of you guys have Tololo. I think congestion is just one of her enemy debuffs. So most of her buffs are actually aligned towards her. So light spike, critical rate and crit damage increased by 3, stacking up to 8. So this buff cannot be cleansed. Extra action, 1 action can be taken. Next is another buff for herself, is targeted attack boost 2. So this is targeted damage increased by 20. This opens up as you get her to V4. I assume that most of you guys already are near V4 or at V4. So this is not gonna be open if you don't have her at V4 at this point. And also, if you don't have her at V4, this is gonna be your target. So critical rate boost increased by 20, face boost 2, face damage dealt by 20%. Considered a buff. He also has piercing. Targeted damage ignores 30% of the target's consider a buff. Attack up. Increase attack by 50%, considered a buff. This is through her fixed key. Damage up is also through her fixed key. Stun also through her fixed key. And after using the active skill, increases Confectance Index by 2. This is courtesy of her expansion key, which we are expecting to arrive as Springfield comes to Global. So let's skip Springfield for the meantime. So basically, Tololo is going to be your main DPS for the Hydro team once Springfield comes in. Let's go first to Sabrina. So what does Sabrina give? So Sabrina does give a couple of buffs for herself and for the team, namely Feeling Full. So this one, so attack increased by 50% of own own defense. So basically the 50% is based on the character's defense, not Sabrina's defense. Okay, Shelter gains stability protection, reduce stability damage by 2. Each instance of stability damage taken consumes 1 stack, maximum of 3 stacks. So this is both of the buffs that she gives. It's going to go as far as every ally. As for the debuffs that she gives movement down. So mobility decreased by 2 tiles. Tideway applies damp to units which end their movement in this area for 2 turns. Damp reduces healing received. Congestion cannot be healed, considered a hydro debuff, and she has taunt. So she is actually one of our best support units in general in the game, but she will bring that to your hydro team once you bring her. Note that again, Sabrina is free to summon and free to farm in the current game setup. So, okay, one more thing, the Feeling Full ability, which is actually in her ultimate. This can be spammable every turn once you reach V5. So take note of that. You may want to get this or Sabrina to V5 as soon as you can. So recently we did have an addition of Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei is actually below average at this point. So she doesn't have any buffs clearly, And but she does have some buffs to herself, not to others, but to herself. She also has some enemy debuffs. We'll go through her buffs first. Action support performs a action support cannot be triggered by another action support. This, however, the action support, if you have multiple copies, I think at the V1, this action support is going to be at 2. So quick barrier targeted damage taken reduced by 60 effective ones. Considered a buff, this is through her fixed key. Her enemy debuffs is presence of mind. When the holder of this debuff takes damage, heals the attacker HP equal to 20% of the damage dealt. This is at V3, so most of you won't be, getting this, I presume, because I don't think you guys have it at V3, but it's there. Damp is reducing heal and receive by 40%. Congestion she has as well. If the target has any hydro debuffs, apply stun to the target for 1 turn. So this helps her control mobs courtesy of her kit, plus hydro debuffs that she can give and hydro debuffs that Sabrina can also dish out. So take note, Sabrina and Zhao work well together. As for our next one, which is Nikita, I'm going to be discussing her, but again, we don't have her yet in Global. Definitely, she's going to have a big influence in terms of DPS that the team will be bringing out. Probably you can swap her in as your 4th character for the Hydro team. Let's see what she gives herself. So increase range of Klook's loyalty by 2 tiles. Increase Coolidge, not Klook's, Coolidge inherited HP by 10%. This is actually her summon. Coolidge gains Coolidge deterrence. Decrease attack for all enemies within 5 tiles by 10%. This is a summon at what do you call this? At V5. Extra command she has, extra action. Insight she has because she's using a sniper. Both Nikita and Springfield are going to use a sniper. Clue increases damage dealt outside of one's turn by 5%. Then she has a counterattack as well. She has a very, very nice kit. As for her debuffs, she has Tide Away, Guilt, and Surveillance. So right now, we'll just have to park her kit on the right side. As soon as she gets to Global, we'll be updating how the team is going to be performing. So with that said, now that we have Sabrina, Zhao Wei, and Tololo. So Tololo is going to be your main DPS. Sabrina is going to be more on the defensive side. Plus, she can dish out buffs to her team as well. So she's kind of your sustain, plus defense, plus counterattack. Then we have Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei, if you want to play her as a DPS, she's more of a mob control. She has 2 AoE skills that you can really use, aside from her mobility, her excellent mobility. She definitely needs the buff that Springfield will be giving. So going to Springfield are, the one that we've been waiting for. Again, she is going to be the glue for everybody. Tololo, Sabrina, Zhao Wei, eventually Nikita. So let's take a look at all of the buffs that she gives. So primarily, she gives overflowing care. She can give this to everybody. She can give this to Tololo, herself, Sabrina, Zhao Wei, eventually Nikita. So after carrying out a command, or after dealing damage, or after receiving damage, the holder restores HP equivalent to 5% of the caster's attack at the end of the action. If the holder is at maximum HP, additional healing is converted into increased hydro damage dealt. So take note, whatever heals she does is going to be converted into hydro damage dealt. Okay, take note the word hydro damage dealt. So a lot of people have been asking me, can I use Springfield in other teams? Yes, you can, but the hydro damage buff, you won't be able to carry with non-hydro teams. Okay, Springfield will only be your healer. So take note of that. For every additional healing equivalent to 1.5 of the caster's attack, increase hydro damage dealt by 1% up to a maximum of 35%. That is huge. This is huge, especially if you give it, if Tololo has it, if Zhao Wei's damage would be, elevated in a way. So, but preferably it's gonna be Tololo. So with that said, the buff, hydro damage buff, a maximum 35%. Next is shared telepathy. If the holder's active attack deals hydro damage, increase the confectance index by 1 point. It is only effective once this is considered a hydro type debuff and cannot be dispelled. This, however, this is at V1. You can't really use this again below V1 or V0. This is important because this makes Tololo, I think, attack 3 times if I am not mistaken. So if the holder attacks, active attack deals hydro damage, increase. The key for Tololo is to increase confectance index, especially if she reaches 6. So the quicker that she reaches 6 confectance index, the more multiple attacks that she can do in a turn. So as you can see here, Tololo has an increase in confectance index by 2 with her expansion key, plus shared telepathy, which gives her increased confectance index again, which hastens her what do you call this? Her confectance index up to 6. So this is very important. This is a very important synergy with Tololo. Bird Bonds is increased HP equivalent to 100% of the caster's max HP. When this buff expires, the holder restores HP equivalent to 100% of the caster's attack. This buff cannot be dispelled. She also does dispels 1 debuff and dispels Taunt and Fear. Dispels Stun and Infatuated at V2. And an additional buff here, if Taris, the summon of Springfield, is on the field, increases defense for allies by 10%, courtesy of the fixed key. So this is one of the best buffs that I've seen for a support. And take note, guys, you'll be loving it if you have Springfield in your Hydro team. So, of course, aside from the buff that she gives to all of, this is actually applicable to all of her allies, especially with the only thing that's not applicable here is the hydro damage increase if you're not bringing Springfield with an hydro team. Let's say, for example, you mix Springfield with another element like fire or corrosion. They won't benefit from the increase in hydro damage dealt. Okay, just take note of that. So as per Springfield, she also gives additional buffs to herself. So this is actually generic to all of Overflowing Care, Shared Telepathy, Taris. When Taris is following, deals damage on ally, activates counterattack, and heals HP for the ally. When the target that Taris is following dies, it automatically follows that the enemy unit with the highest HP is going to be next. This is applied to her summon. So also she has counterattack. This is actually applicable to Taris. Performs an attack, cannot be triggered by interceptions, counterattacks in action, support, summon only. So both of these skills are for summons only. Okay, take note, it's actually included here in the middle. But for additional additional effects and buffs that she gives herself, she gets extra action. One action can be taken. Insight increases the range of ultimate skill by 1 tile and considered a buff, of course, because she is a sniper. Self-heal, if Taris is on the field at the end of the Springfield's action, restores HP equivalent to 20% of max HP. And Taris activates action support against the enemy, dealing hydro damage at V3. So take note of the stopping points here. V1, this is what you get. V2, this is what you get. And V3, this is what you get. So ideally, what I would suggest, if you are actually saving up on what they call this, on or pulls for Springfield, ideally take her to V1. It's actually enough, plus R1. I'm gonna be going to the gun in a while. Let's just finish this up. So for her enemy debuffs, which is also a lot. False Intelligence, increased ability damage received by 2 points. Damp, Congestion, Cold Wave, all heal received converted into fixed damage taken. Considered a Hydro type debuff. This is at V4, by the way. Okay, Path of Protection, when this skill is used, pulls all targets in the center by 3 tiles. This is in her fixed key. And at V6, Vulnerability analysis increases hydro damage received by 5%, can be stacked up to 3 times. This is considered a hydro type debuff and cannot be dispelled. So those are these, tidbits or the tidbit details of her kit. Let's go to her gun, and we'll see more of a buff there for the whole team. So far, these are the buffs for the whole team, and let's take a look at her gun. So for Springfield's gun, which is Faint Piercer, what do you get as well as buffs to herself and to her allies? So after healing, an ally restores 2 stability index for herself. This is only applicable for 1 round. Increased hydro damage dealt by all allies by 5%, which again helps all allies. And increased maximum HP for self by 15%. I'm talking about 1 copy, guys. So this scales up to depending on how many copies you have of her. So when using an active healing skill, okay, an active healing skill applies attack up to for 2 turns. Imprint skill increases damage dealt towards Sika technology units 2.5%. If the target has Hydro type debuffs, further increases damage dealt by 2.5%. So these are the buffs pertaining to herself and pertaining to her allies. So lastly, if you want to supplement your Hydro team, definitely first and foremost, if you want Maki for multi-attack support triggers, then she is one here that you can use. She's supplementary, of course. She does not get the Hydro damage buffs. QG as well for support attacks. She does not get the Hydro buffs, but she get other buffs, generic buffs that is applicable to her depending on what let's say for example Sabrina's buff, increased attack depending on defense, is actually applicable to QJ. Okay, so then Florence here, we don't have her yet. She does have heals and buff, but if you want to use Kolfni, you can use Kolfni for additional heals as well. So that is it, guys. That is the synergy for your mono Hydro team, and they're very viable now. Once Springfield arrives, comment down in the comment section what do you think, guys. Take care, stay safe. This is the Warden, and I'm out of here.